Okay, welcome back. Sorry for being late. It's only 10 minutes, so we'll be okay. Okay, so I want to do two things today. First, I want to cover the quiz, just so that everyone's on the same page. By the way, you can pick up your quizzes, right? You can pick up your quizzes during my office hours. Feel free to ask questions, whatever, I'll be there. Definitely come to office hours, all of them, if you didn't do well, because that's a sign that you need more help, and we're happy to give you what's needed. And then we're going to talk about game development. So you guys are going to be able to build games, which I think will be pretty cool. So we'll get to that in a moment. First, quiz number 2. Here we go. So the first question, write a function that takes 5 somethings. Some people had arrays, some people had numbers, some people had strings. There were various variations of this. But the point is, and returns the shortest one. Okay? So let me write the simplest one that takes numbers, and arrays would work very similarly. So let me make it zoom in. The size is okay? You guys can see it? Okay. So, shortest is a function that takes 5 things. So, I don't know, A, B, C, D, E. That's 5, right? Okay. You know what? Let me do it for A, B, C. And you guys, I'm sure, will understand the rest of it. It's very easy. So what you do is, the way I would do this, is I would create a variable called shortest, or short, and I will assign that to the first one. So I'm going to assume right now that the first one is the shortest one. But what I have to do is I have to check, am I right? So what I have to do to check is compare short with the next one, which is B. So if short is greater than B, right, then, I found one that is shorter than A, so I change short to not be A, but to now be B. Now I'm assuming that either A or B are the shortest ones. But wait, I have to make sure that C is not shorter. So let me check. If short is greater than C, then now I have to, in that case, actually short should be C. And then I simply return short, like that. Now if you had more, if you had C, D, E, guess what? You have to just compare short with more things. D, then short is E, and if short is greater than then short is E. That's it. Not very hard, I think, right? Do you guys understand this algorithm? Does it make sense to you? Yeah? Raise your hand if you want me to explain what's happening. Okay, fine. So, watch this. Okay. So we have that. And we have this. Okay. So look, I'm trying to find they're all the same size. Good job, Rubo. Okay, let's just say, Okay, let's find the whitest one. Which one has more white on it? Okay, so I'm going to assume that this one is the one that has the whitest one. Okay? And so what I'll do is I'll put my foot on it. Here's what I do. I compare the next one to the one that my foot is on. Okay? So is this wider than this? If it is, I'm going to do this. Okay? Is this wider than this? No. Okay, so I skip it. Is this wider than this? Okay. And then, I just return the one that has my foot on it. That's it. Now my foot represents the short variable. This is my foot. I put my foot on A. I then compare my foot to B. If the one I found is actually smaller than the one that my foot is on, or wider in this case, then I change my foot to point at the next one. And I keep doing this, and then I return the one my foot is on. Sure. And thereof, votes. Okay, yeah. Okay, so you can, look, there are lots of ways to do this, right? Remember, for anything that I show you, there are various algorithms you can use. The complexity with what you said is it's a little bit like, you can do it, but here's why. You could say, return A if A is greater than B, A is less than B, and B is less than C, and C is less than D, and D is less than E. Return B if B is less than A, and A is less than C, and C is less than D, and D is less than E. And so on and so on. And yes, you could. And that's legal. I mean, we'll accept it. It's crazy, but you can do it. So, yes, that's acceptable. No problem. If you did that, you got 100. No problem. But you guys see that, so this is the difference between everyone can code, but this is clearly slightly better, right? It's cleaner, it's simpler, it's smaller. Small is good in programming. Does everyone understand the solution now? Okay, just remember my foot and you'll be fine. You won't forget it. Good. Okay, next one. So, implement a function called getWeight. There were various variations of this, right? But I'll just do this one and you guys can understand this is kind of the same thing. Okay, so let's create a function called getWeight. This. And getWeight will take an input, let's just say A. And if the input is car, so if the input is car, the string car, a lot of you did this stuff. Like, what the crap is car? That's not part of the language. We don't know what car. It's a string, right? It's a string that contains the character C-A-R. If the input is the string car, then we're going to return a car, let's say, weighs, return 1,000. Actually, before that, it's if input, or A, is truck. Here we can do else here. Hang on. We could do this. So here we're going to return 2677. There we go. And then in all other cases, I should be returning 0. Okay, you could do this. You could also do this. You could also do this. All of these are okay. Why? Because the moment you return, you stop anyway, right? So it doesn't. If we pass truck, it would return this, and that's it. Done. It would never even look at this code anyway, right? If it's not truck, you'll look at car. If it's car, returns 1,000. Done. If it's not, then it just returns 0, right? So that's okay too. Okay, so we have getWeight, and then the whole idea behind this was to implement a function called getTotalTruckWeight. So const get total truck, which takes a function and number of trucks. Num trucks. You could call it A, I don't care, but some input that specifies how many trucks. And in here, you need to compute the weight of all of these trucks. Okay, if I know how many trucks, and I have this function, help me. Right, or yeah, trucks times getWeight what? Voila. Oh, we're so good at math. I love it. that's it. Now, some of you had like Google, like stock prices, right? Here instead of truck weight, it was money. Some had dollars and euros, and you just have to multiply that number times that. It's the same exact, just variations of the same thing. Any questions regarding this part? It's clear? Anyone want me to review it? Raise your hand if you do. Fine, good. Okay, so we keep going then. Next one, number 3. By the way, you guys spend an hour on this. I just want you to be clear. Okay. So next one is you need to create a make move. Okay? Now make move takes a 2-dimensional array, and your job is to simply take the second value that's given to you and set it to the first empty place that you can find. Okay, that's it. So that's super easy. So we do const make move, which takes a 2-dimensional so R2D or something, whatever. You could call it A, fine, and some sort of a value. And our job is to put this value somewhere into this array that is empty. Now, some of you, for empty, we put in -1. For some of you, we put the string E. I'll do the -1 version. So -1 means empty. Now, remember, it's a 2-dimensional array, which means if I call make move, I pass it an array and some value, like, a 4. And then this array has 3 arrays in it. These arrays then contain things like, I don't know, it doesn't matter what, but let's say it contains this, and it contains a -1. It contains whatever, and a -1, and a -1, and a whatever, and a whatever. It doesn't matter what it contains, right? You can get any combination. And my goal in here is to basically find the first -1 and change that to whatever value is given, which in this case, let's say is 4. So I have to check. So this is the array. How do I get this? How do I check this position? Can someone tell me? If this array rep is here, so R2D, index 0, will give me the first array. Remember, we're referring to this array, so 0 will give us the first item. This is the second item, this is the third item. So if we take 0, we take the first item, that is to say this array right here. Okay? So now we have this array. Now we want to check the first position in the array that is returned. What do I do? Index 0. Good. So now I need to check, listen to the language. If that position is equal to -1. -1 means empty. If this position is equal to -1. A lot of you guys wrote this stuff here. This is not equals. This is assignment. Don't confuse the two. This checks equals. This returns a boolean, a true or false. Is it equal or not equal? Okay? This means assignment. This means put this into this position. Okay, so if this is true, then what we'll do is R2D 0, 0, and we'll put inside the value that is given to us. If it's not, else, if we check the next position. How do I check this next position?
0.
So let's copy all this. Don't you wish you had copy paste in your exams? 0, 1, 0, 1. Copy this. Paste it there. 0, 2, 0, 2. And then, okay? Oh, sorry, else, yes, sorry. There. And then you keep doing another 3 more else ifs for 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2. Then you do another 3 for 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2. And you're done. Right, so if you did without else if, what you're doing is you're replacing every single -1 with a value. We do not take off points for that. If you did that, it's okay. Okay? But the idea behind making move is for you to write a function that makes the next move on the tic-tac-toe. Hաջորդ քայլը։ Պատկերացեք մենք շախմատ ենք խաղում, ասում եմ հաջորդ քայլը քոնն է, ու դու 25-ը պեշկա ես շարժում։ Չէ։ Մի հատ կշարժես ու կսպասես հաջորդ։ Միտքը դա է։ So make Ստիստիկի լոգիկի ժամանակ ասում եմ հաջորդ քայլը քոնն է։ Մի հատ քայլ արա։ Բայց դու միայն քար կարող ես անես ընդեղ, որտեղ որ դադար կա, չէ՞։ Չես կարող քարի վրա քար դնես։ Բարձա։ That's why I was saying just make a move in the first empty position. Some of you might want to write an algorithm later, maybe for your project, that decides the best position to put and can actually compete with you. We can talk about that later. Maybe we do that for homework, just for fun. Okay, Esparza, you guys understand what needs to be done here? Yes? Any questions? Raise your hand. Nothing? Okay. Alright, so that's done. Last one. Oh, geez, I gotta write this code. Does anyone really want me to review the last one? Okay, I got a yes. Love. Okay, so const y is 10. Const div is function ts. TOHS. Const div. Make sure I wrote this correctly. Consequence div ts oh, div. Okay. So, how does this work? You know what? I know how I'll show you. Debuggers. Oh. Okay, wait, I know. I'll copy this into desktop. Where's my, do I have one? No. Okay, sublime. Paste, save. HTML, save that to my desktop. Save it. And go here. Okay. Okay. All that just to get here. Okay. Can everyone see this, or should I zoom in more? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So what do we do? First, we create a y, then a div, and a div, and a yup. Okay. So far we just created a y, div, and yup, right? So now we're going to go into the call div, and we're going to pass for and yup being this function, into div, into here, right? So we go in, and now y contains the for, and yup contains this function here. With me so far? Okay. Then we go into zoo being the yup function, remember, right? So we go into zoo, and we're here, and we take y, which was 4, right? So now c is 4. And we say div y and 2. Well, you can see here immediately that that's going to divide the first one by the second one, right? So it's going to divide 4 by 2. Let's go in and see that. Wait, what? Wait, did I write this correctly? Hang on. TS. Wait, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. this thing. Okay, it's kind of awesome. No, yeah, okay, we go in here. We pass y, which is a 4, right? We go in here. Now watch this. This is a trick. Pay attention. Y is 4, right? In here, C is 4, right? There's a y in here. Remember the rule of scoping. If you find a variable, you first, where do you look for that variable? First you look inside this block. Do you see a y anywhere in here? Has it been created anywhere in there? Yes or no? If not, what do? You go up. If you go up from here, you get to here. Right? So that means what we're doing here is passing 10 and 2, not C, which is 4. So we're passing 10 and 2, and we're dividing them. So we go here. We divide 10 and 2 and get 5, of course. So we return that. We do it again. And we get 5 again. And so it's 5 times 5. Which is, D is now 25. This was a trick question. All of you had the same problem, by the way, just different variations. All of you had a variable that was an input that was never used in the body of the function. The variable that was used was the one that was declared way up here. Okay? Yes? Of course, okay. So look, the result of, if when you call zoo, right? Zoo takes y, which is 10, and 2, and divides them, getting a 5. Right? So that means the result of this is a 5. And the result of this is a 5. Sure? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Al? Good. Okay. That's it. That's the entire quiz. Yay! Okay. Where the heck is all my... İçeri. Haydi Masum, ek officer ve sekreteri. Okay. So, good job on the quizzes. Most of you did very well, by the way, so congratulations. Thank you for being awesome. All right. So today, we're going to start something new. So, forget everything you've learned. No, I'm kidding. It's all, look, one of the things that you guys will learn now is everything that we do from now on is going to be functions, looping. Oh, I want to show you one more important thing that I think is just something you should know. Let's say you have an array. In general, when you do a while loop consists of 3 different parts. Do you guys remember what those 3 parts are? What do you have to do to almost every time, whenever you make a while loop?
Condition.
Okay, so you need to make the condition, like while, I is less than 10. That's a condition, right? But you need to create the I, right? So you need to do let I is 0. And you need to change the I. So you need to do something like I is equal to I plus 1, right? There you go. This is like a standard while loop, right? That we write all the time. And then you can write whatever you want in here, like console.log, yay, and now you get yay printed 10 times, right? But forgetting this, pay attention to these 3 things. This, the condition, and the mutation. The initialization of your variable, the condition that will stop the loop, and the mutation of the variable. 3 things. Everyone knows this now, right? By heart. Like, you just have to know it. Okay, well, it turns out there's another construct that puts all of these 3 things into one thing. It's called a for loop. Okay? It works exactly like this. Here's how you would do the same thing using a for loop. For, You do the first thing. What's the first thing?
Declare a variable.
Declare a variable. What's the second thing?
Condition.
Condition. What's the next thing?
Increment.
That's it. And then you can write console.log. And you get okay 10 times. Do you see how this and this, forgetting this part, these two are, this and this are exactly the same thing.
The 4 is more complex.
4 is more, exactly. It's syntactic sugar. So one of the things I've been careful about is I try to teach you guys as little syntax as needed, just to get you guys so you don't get confused. But now that you understand looping, it's important that you know this, because this is much more common than this. Okay? So, does this syntax make sense to you guys? Do you understand that it's literally, you just take this, and this, and you just put them side by side? Easy, right? One more syntactic sugar. It turns out that if you want to do I is equal to I plus 1, another thing you can do is this. Plus equal to I. Oh, sorry, I is plus equal to 1, that's right.
Plus.
Wait, plus equal. This means exactly the same as this. It's just syntactic sugar. It looks pretty. Okay? It's exactly the same thing. Okay? So if you did I is equal to I plus 2, you could just do plus equal 2. This and this are exactly the same. Is that clear? Do you understand why? I mean, it makes sense, right? There's one more syntactic sugar that is necessary for you to know. If you want to always increment by one thing, oh shoot, I just started. Okay, moment. Come on. I'll just start a new tab. Okay. That's what happens when you do an infinite loop. Okay. So for I, let I be 0, I is less than 10. I, you can do plus equal 1, right? We know this. The other thing you can do is if you just want to add 1, you can do plus plus. Right. If you want to subtract 1, you can do either, hang on, let me do the opposite so I don't get into an infinite loop. So let's say we start with 10, and we go as long as I is greater than 0. And then in here, I need to do I minus minus. There we go. Okay, so I now is starting with 10. We're checking to see that I is greater than 0, and we decrement. This is called decrement, right? You're decreasing by 1. Decrement. This decreases by 1. This is exactly the same as doing minus equals 1. Which is exactly the same as saying I is equal to I minus 1. Oh. Seriously, this broke? Wow. Good job, guys. I'm just going to do it. Okay. For let I be 10, I is greater than 0, I is equal to I minus 1. There we go. Okay. Forget about this A. This is a syntax error. Does this make sense? And do you understand that this is exactly the same as saying minus equal? Which is exactly the same as doing that. So this, it decreases by 1. Ask us actually. I think Hinak. Got it? Which is exactly the same as doing minus equals 1. Which is exactly the same as doing equals A minus 1. Okay, this and that are exactly the same. It's just 3 ways of doing the exact same thing. Okay? If you write, you can do any of those in your programs. All 3 will work. If you want to just keep doing A is equal to A minus 1, fine. Fine. No points will be taken up. Okay? But just know that this is done, so if you read someone else's code, you can understand what they did. Okay? Questions? Barzal? Yes. Can you change the order? No, okay. In a for loop, the order in which you put those three things matters. Okay, so in a for loop, the first thing you always do is you declare your variable. Then you do x is, whatever, less than 10. Then you say, x plus plus or whatever. Okay? Because think about it, if you move this to the left, you're using an x that has not been declared yet, right? First you have to create the x, right? So always do it in this order. Yes? Plus, I think it check. Syntax çıkartmak. Acele deltasızım x plus havasana gerek. Yes? Ah, I see your point. Okay. Notice how x did not print here. The reason for this is because exactly, when you create the x inside of a for loop, it's restricted to the for loop, so you can't use it outside. Whereas in a while loop, if we did let, x is 10, and we get rid of this, and then you do, x is greater than 0. Now if we do this, we get that. Why do we get 0? Because it has to become 0 for it to break out of the loop, right? Չէ՞։ 10 չէ, հետո ասում ենք -1 եղավ 9, շարունակում ենք 8, 7 եւ այլն մինչեւ վեր, երբ որ դառնում է 0, նոր սա false-ա, նոր դուրս ենք գալիս։ Դրա համար տպում ենք 0։ Բացն այդքան է։ How are we doing? Hands up if you need more explanation. Yay! Alright, let's do cool things now. Alright, so you guys learned some basic HTML, I know that. I'm going to introduce you to a new tag. Okay? The new tag is called, what's it called again? Canvas. Okay. Canvas. In my program, I want to reference this element. Do you guys remember how I'm able to access a DOM element, an HTML element from my JavaScript? Yeah, I can use the document object and call getElement by ID. So first I need to give it an ID, like, canvas. And then in here I do document.getElement by ID canvas. Actually, let's not call it canvas. Let's call it CS110. Because why not? And then we need to store that into some variable. So const canvas is that. Okay. So now we have a canvas. So what is a canvas? Think of a canvas as a piece of paper. Okay? So we created a piece of paper in our HTML. Okay, so there's our HTML, and somewhere there's a piece of paper. If I told you I need a piece of paper, if I just told you, hey, can you guys please get me a bit? What's a question you might ask me?
What size?
What size? Exactly. How big of a piece do you want a paper this big? Do you want a paper this big, right? So the first thing we might want to do is tell Canvas how big it should be. So we speak in pixels. Okay, pixel is like one of those little dots on the screen. So we say, let's have our canvas have a width of, 500 pixels, and have our canvas have a height of, let's say, 400 pixels. Okay, so now congratulations, we now have a piece of paper that's 500 by 400. Okay. So next thing is I want to draw things, right? Suppose I told you, here's a piece of paper. Draw a rectangle. What's the first thing you would need?
Pencil.
A pencil. Exactly. You guys are geniuses. Exactly. A pencil. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get the tools necessary to do the drawing, right? The pencils, the markers, whatever, right? The erasers and so on. So from Canvas, what I have to do is I have to get this tool belt. So I say canvas.getContext 2D. GetContext is a function, of course, that takes a string, and you specify the kinds of tools that you want. The tools that you use to do 3D rendering are different from the tools you use for 2D rendering, okay? So I just want to do 2D basic drawing, so I just need markers and pencils, okay? So for that, I specify 2D. It gives me back an object, let's call it context, that has all of these things inside. The pencils, the markers, all of that is now inside of this object. Look over this code one more time just to make sure that it's kind of making sense. Here we create the piece of paper. Here we get a reference to the piece of paper. Remember, in JavaScript speak, it's just an object. Here we make assignments to width and height, which is telling the DOM, hey, draw the piece of paper using 500 by 400. And then we do get context, which means I want the tools to do 2D rendering, 2D drawing. Okay? So now I want to draw something. I want to draw a rectangle. Okay? If I want to perform an action, I want to get stuff done. In programming, what do we do to get something done? We need to run some code, right? Now, it turns out that there's already a tool, a function, inside of context that will draw a rectangle. Fill rect. Fill rect is the name of the function. Okay? Now if I told you, get ready to be really smart again, if I told you, draw me a rectangle, what would you ask?
What color?
What color?
The height,
The height, the width,
The mark.
position.
the position. Exactly. Where do you want me to draw it? How big should it be? And possibly the color. Exactly. Very good. Okay. So let's put the color aside and just assume by default, if I don't tell you the color, you should do it in black. Just by default, for now. We will change the color soon. So let's focus on the location and then the width and the height. Okay? Now all of you, do we have a marker? Of course we don't have a marker. Good job. Okay. So width and height is done again in pixels. So width and height is done in pixels, and the coordinates are specified in pixels. Now, in mathematics, all of you being as smart as you are, have already learned the notion of this thing, right? This idea of having a coordinate system, or if I told, where you have like 1, 2, 3, and then here you have 1, 2, 3. And so if I told you draw something in 2, 3, you would go 2, 3, and draw something here. Right? Okay. In Canvas, it's a little bit different. The x-coordinate still works exactly the same. That does not change. But the y-coordinate flips. Merci. Okay. I have to draw this again. Okay. Basic coordinate system. This is the x, this is the y, right? You have the stuff here, and stuff here. This is basic math, right? If I told you do 3, 2, you would go 3, 2, and put it here. Right? Basic math. Nothing, no programming. Okay. But in Canvas, x works exactly the same, but y flips and grows downward. So the negatives become positive, and positives become negative. In other words, in Canvas, we have this. This is your x, and this is your y. In your So if I told you now, draw me find the coordinate 4, 3, you would go 4, but then go down 3. This is the equivalent of 4, 3 in coordinates. In canvas. Did that make sense? Yes? Awesome. Okay. If that makes sense, now let me explain this. Fill rect takes 4 arguments, 4 inputs. The x, the y,
Destination.
the width, and the height. Exactly. 4 coordinates. So let's specify 4 coordinates. So x, easy, right? So let's have it be, 10 pixels to the right. No problem. The y, 10 pixels down. Remember, it grows this way. So let's have starting from here, let's go 10, 10. 10. We need a size, right? So we need a width. 40, perfect. Wow, we think the same. And so that's the width, and let's specify a height. 50, fine. There it is. If we do 40 by 40, it'll be a perfect square, right? Boom. Now look, yeah, we'll change relax, we'll do fun things soon. So if I change this to 20, it moves that way, right? So we're changing the x coordinate now. And here, this is changing the y coordinate. And again, notice that when the y grows, it goes down. Good job. Got that spot. Okay, so, any questions so far? Exactly. So if I wanted to be at the very end, just to show you what okay, why don't we draw a rectangle? Okay, if I told you, draw a rectangle the entire size of the thing, and then draw a rectangle at this position, here's what you would get. Context.fillRect. So let's do 0, 0. Canvas.width. Canvas.height. Now, some of you are thinking, and this is the size of my entire canvas, right? And I can make that smaller. Hang on. There we go. I can make that smaller and smaller still. Now, you might say, did you notice here I didn't write, like, when I do this, I don't then do this. I do canvas.width.
Because it can change.
Exactly, because so when we change, we only change in one place. We don't change in 50 different places, right? It's just good programming practice. So here we're going to say, let's say it's 300 by, let's make it smaller, 200. There you go. This is our entire canvas. Oh, sorry, Jeff, continue. Oh, okay. Okay, so now, but the problem is, both rectangles were black, right? So what we did is drew a rectangle that was black, and then another rectangle that is black, which is why all we see is black. Not so fun. So let's do something more fun. Let's have, okay. Now, instead of drawing in pen, we're going to draw in paint. So, okay? By default, you're dipping into the black ink. What I want you to do is first dip into red ink and then draw. How do you say dip into red ink? Context, text, dot, fill, style. Fill style means the fill, մեջի լցրած մասը, հա, միջև այդ նկարելը կարմիրի մեջ թաթախեք. So, why do we only see red? Because we dipped in red and then drew a big one and then drew a small one. So we drew 2 red rectangles, right? What do I have to change to have a red rectangle in the background but a black rectangle inside? Exactly. Steph, ասում եմ միջև S մեկը նկարելը. Yeah, you can specify hex values here and RGB and all that stuff, yeah. So you can get every շատ հեշտ է, հենց դեռ ասում ես hash ու hash code-ն ասում։ Աջա։ Եթե տեղերով փոխել։ Հա, ճիշտ է։ Good question. He's saying, what happens, look, you tell me. If I gave you paint and I said, draw a small rectangle, and then draw a big rectangle, would you see the one that's inside, yes or no? Exactly.
Can we change the Z index of it to be...
No, there's no... Z index is defined by the order in which you draw. Okay? Բարեբոդի մաստով նկարչության ձևով մտածի էլի։ Հերթականությունը քո նկարելու հերթականությունն է։ Is this... Yes?
And what if we draw a rectangle on the border of a canvas?
On the border of the canvas. Ah, you mean not a fill, but... What do you mean?
Which crosses the border.
Crosses. You mean you want me to move this into like... I think what you're saying is...
Yeah, until like negative 300, yeah.
What? Sorry. We don't go. Science? Awesome. Okay. So then you can make this positive and drop it down, make this positive, drop it down. Is that clear? Yes? Okay, now we know how to write loops, right? You guys know how to write a for loop, you know how to write a while loop. Let's draw 10 rectangles on the screen, but not, okay, how do I draw 10 rectangles on the screen? Give me like the easiest way to do that. Okay, so one way is to just do this 10 times. Right? So now I just drew, wait, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There, I just drew 10 rectangles, right? We all understand that this is crap, right? You shouldn't do this. So let's understand a cleaner way to do it. Exactly. Someone said put it in a for loop or a while loop. It's the same thing at the end of the day. So let's put it in a for loop. So help me define a for loop that will loop 10 times, calling this row. Let I equal 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. Okay. Right? So remember, this is exactly the same as, plus equals 1. Which is exactly the same as equals... Ah, come on! It's okay, we're going to now, you guys are going to help me. You know what? You write this. Why am I writing this? How do I create a canvas element? Right. So I need an ID in order to fetch it. Give me an ID, a fun one. Okay, now I need to reference this element. So I tell the HTML object, the DOM document, dot get element by ID, and I say hello. This will give me back canvas. You can call this balls, but let's call it canvas so we understand what it is. Okay. So now I need to give it a size. Tell me how to give a canvas a size. Okay, I need a tool belt. I need the tools necessary to do 2D rendering. What do I do? Okay, now I need a loop. And I need to now draw a rectangle on the screen. What do I do? Fill, remember, let's start rectangle D. Fill, rect. And let's decide somewhere. Let's say 3, 4 width and height. Okay, okay. Is this code clear? Now what we did is we drew 10 times a rectangle in the exact same spot on top of each other. Not very interesting. So instead of always drawing in the same X and the same Y, help me do something better. Help me make it so that every time I draw, it draws somewhere else. What can I do?
We assign the coordinates
3 plus variable, then we change the choice policy.
Oh, we can do all kinds of stuff, right? We can do 10 plus I, for example. Okay, so that draws it 1 pixel to the right. That's not that interesting. We can do times. That's interesting. I don't know, you guys tell me. What if we increment it instead of by 1? What if we increment it by 30? Okay? We can do plus equals 3, 30. And we can have this go while it's less than 300. And then have this now be I. Whee! Does that work? What happens if I would change this one? What's going to happen? Like this. Whee! All right. So you get it. We can do all kinds of things, and you can, of course, change the color. So you can do context.fill style, be red, and now they're all red. Meg yeku yerek choshking bez yot. Good. Is this clear? Yeah? Okay. Well, if this is clear, let's do something really cool. Hang on, what time is it? Okay, we don't have a lot of time, but let's do this. Let's put this code into a function. Actually, not this one. Yes?
Why there is space between every single
Because the size of the rectangle is 20 by 20, but we increase the location by 30. So therefore there's space. Does that make sense? Elsie? That's why. Got it? So if we did, now it's bigger.
So for the color, do we, for example, like turquoise, I don't know, color like that?
So there are a set of like common colors that you can do by text, but you can also specify hex values there. If you know what that is, you can do RGB colors there. I'll talk. These are details, so we can talk about that later. Okay, forget what he said. Esparza. This is clear. Okay, now let's do something kind of cool. Let's put in the drawing into a function, and let's by default draw it in I don't know, 0, 0. Okay, let's put this into a function, const draw. There's a function called draw. Okay, if I call it, it will draw, right? I think that's pretty obvious. What I want to do, though, is I want to draw, and then wait, and then draw again. And then wait, and then draw again. Okay? So what I can do is create a function called run. Just time. We can space. I'll say nikari, mi bakan space, and nikari, mi bakan space, and nikari. Okay? How do you wait a little bit? So JavaScript has this notion of set timeout. Okay? Set timeout takes a function and a time. So in milliseconds. So if you wanted a second, you would need 1,000. Okay? So here, from here, if I call draw, it will draw after 1,000. That's like we can spot 9. 1 Mississippi. Let me do it again. 1 Mississippi. Right? So 1 second later, it draws. Also, if I wanted to draw in 5 seconds, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. It takes about a second to say the word Mississippi. That's okay. So you get it, right? So this is a function that takes a function at time, and it will call the function you give it after the time you specify it. Parza et kana. Okay, yete parza, watch this. İş çeşme. Check. Okay, now, watch me do this code, okay? No, sorry, but forget what that set. Wrap your mind around this one. If I do console log here, what I should see is every second it's going to print one. Notice that. Okay, let me explain. We create this function, we call it here. We go in here, we do console log. We set timeout, which means this function will call after 1 second. After 1 second, we call the same function, which then prints, and then again creates a timeout, which gets called loop in 1 second. So it loops, but it loops after 1 second. That's all.
So if we put after the loop a code that takes, for example, 3 seconds, the set amount will be called after 4 seconds.
Yeah. No, after 3 seconds. But nuance yes. Hazara milli varken. I think that's a mi varken.
Why we set timeout inside the function?
Oh, okay. So what you want to do is, so the loop function is performing some operation, right? Then it wants to wait a bit and then do the operation again. Then it wants to wait a bit and do the operation again. We want it to constantly loop.
If we take it out,
Burada canım. Burada da sonra. Arkasında. Okay, by the time, okay. You know, but I think it sense. By the time can nine çıkartayım. İnka mi küçük spasi, looping kançı, loop'a gani konsologiye uğramasın. Yes. Çek. Sam miyan set timeout'ta miyan kan başka. Set interval headers.
Will this code break at some point?
Set interval
mi yok da varsa kendi bazen çünkü set timeout davranıyor. Okay. Do you guys kind of get what's happening here? Do you get that it's an infinite loop? But it's an infinite loop where each time it does a loop, it waits a little bit. Mi varken spasuma, eli ganchima looping, eli mi varken spasuma, eli ganchima looping, eli mi varken spasuma.
Why does it repeat?
I'll show you. It's like awesome. But do you understand how this code works? It's for animation. That's like lessons. Good job?
But why doesn't it increase the browser?
Because of this. If it look, եթե loop-ը միանգամից կանչեի, եթե այս ջնջեի, ու ընդհանրապես ինքը իրան միանգամից կանչեր, չէ։ Freeze կանե, որտեղ ինքը ասած կփռա ու կցնի ամեն ինչ։ Set timeout-ը ինչ ան, ասում է մի քիչ կոդ աշխատացրու, set timeout-ը ասում է սպասի։ Սպասելու ժամանակ browser-ը կարող է աշխատի, շնչի, նկարի, ուրիշ գործողություններ անի։ Մի վայրկյան հետո նոր էս ֆունկցիան կանչվում է, էլի է գործողություն անում, էլի թողում է։ Ու էլի browser-ը սկսում է իր գործողությունները անի։ Դրա չի սարում։ Հասկացա՞ր, չէ՞։ Այդ event loop-ի հետ է կապված, որը մի քիչ ավելի բարդ թեմա է, բայց մոտավորապես տենց է աշխատում։
Եթե զրոյի գնենք, էլի freeze չի լինի, չէ՞։
Էլի չի լինի։ Ուղղակի մի քիչ ավելի այդ տենց է անում եք հետո։ Okay. So if you guys understand this, now instead of just doing console log yay, let's call our draw function. Okay, let's see what happens. No, nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Because we keep drawing the stupid rectangle in the same exact place. Every time we draw it in the same place. So let's do this. Let's do let I be 0. Let's set the x value to I and change it to I is I plus 10. Let's see what happens. 1 second. 1 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi. You see what's happening? We wait 1 second, we go, we draw another rectangle. We wait 1 second, we go, we draw another rectangle. We wait 1 second, we go and draw another rectangle. And we keep doing this, right? Now what I want to do though, is I want to not draw lots of rectangles, but I want to have one rectangle move. Like fly. Եթե սա լիներ ձեր թուղթը, ու ես ձեզ ասեի մի հատ բան նկարեք, չէ? Հետո ասեի նենց արեք, որ հաջորդ անգամ ինքը շարժվի։ Պետք է ջնջեք. Exactly. You have to erase the previous one to then draw the new one. So, let's do that. So there are a few ways you can do that. The simplest one is called clear rect. So we do context.clear rect. And the simplest way to do this is to just erase the entire paper. Right? Just erase everything and draw another one. Erase everything and draw another one. So how do I, and it takes, because it's rect, what do you think the arguments are?
0, 0.
Yeah, the x, y, width, and height. So I want to do 0, 0 to start at the very top. And I want the size to match the canvas. So what do I do? Ooh, better, better. Okay, now why do you suppose this animation is so damn slow?
And change the 1,000 to like...
Because of this, because we're waiting for 1,000. Well, suppose we only waited for this much. Whee! Okay, suppose we only waited for that much. Okay, sort of better, maybe. I don't know, 50? Okay, somewhat. Okay. That much, that's half a second. Okay, so. So one of the things that you notice, though, you know what? One of the things that you notice is it works, but it's a bit choppy, right? It's got this like weird... So first of all, it's moving by 10 each time. That's... Why don't we move it by less so it's smoother? So why don't we move it by 1? Okay, better. Let's have it go faster. So let's do 200. Oh, sorry. Of course. Okay, faster still. Okay, not bad. So one of the things you'll notice is in this end, and it finishes because that's where a paper finishes, right? So you're drawing, and eventually it goes off the paper. Yeah. Okay.
Can we start from the next line?
Can we start from?
From like the next line.
New stories.
Yeah, but what would you have to do?
Find the ending.
You would have to, wait, do you want to just bring it down and bring it back, or you just want to go to the next line and go again?
Next.
Change the 0 to 1.
S իգլիկն է։
Առաջինյամ.
Առաջ հաջորդ line-ը իգլիկը փոխում ես։ Հասկացա՞, չէ՞։ So if we do, let's say 30 here, now it's going to be a bit lower. Now what you're saying is when you finish, go to the next line, if that's what you're saying. Okay, but then in that case you need an if statement here, that then, so this has to be another variable that you have to update whenever it gets to the end. So ստուգում ես I-ը որտեղ է, I-ը իրական x-ն է, չէ՞, x-ն է փոխվում։ Let's change this I to x, because that's really what it is. Okay. S-ը կնի y-ը, չէ՞, ասենք։ Y-ներ ասենք թե փոխենք, y plus սենց եթե անենք, ինքը սենց կգնա։ Չէ՞, որտեղ երկուսն է աճում են։ Հիմա քո ասածը S միայն